Nobody respects the coward. The world doesn't bow to the man who backs down. It doesn't pause for the one who hesitates. Cowards are forgotten. Cowards are stepped on. Cowards are exposed. Nobody cries for the man who never showed up. Nobody respects the one who watched his own life burn while standing still. You think you're playing it safe. You're playing dead, because that's what cowards do. They pretend safety is strategy, but in reality, it's fear masquerading as logic. You let fear take the wheel, and you wonder why you keep crashing. You let doubt whisper in your ear until it became your god. You worship comfort, you bow to insecurity, and you wonder why no one sees a king in you. Because kings don't flinch, warriors don't ask permission to rise, legends don't beg for mercy. They bleed until the job is done, but you're hiding behind excuses. You call it waiting for the right time, but time's been screaming at you for years. Cowards have the loudest mouths, but the weakest actions. You say you want it, but you move like you fear it. You talk about change, but you crumble when pressure comes. You dream of power, but you fold like paper in fire. Because power demands sacrifice. It demands war. It demands you kill the part of you that's afraid to be judged, afraid to lose, afraid to hurt. You don't deserve victory if you fear pain. You don't deserve success if you can't handle suffering. You want a throne without the bloodshed. Get out of the arena. This world was built by men who chose pain over peace, who chose fire over silence, who chose to be feared rather than ignored. Cowards will always choose quiet. They'll always say, "I'll try tomorrow." Tomorrow is a lie. It's a bed you curl into to avoid the mirror, a mirror that shows the truth. You're weak because you chose to be. Nobody respects the coward, because a coward has no skin in the game. He's just a spectator, screaming from the stands, never willing to bleed on the field. The world only salutes the one who stands back up, the one who gets hit and says, "That's all you got." But you stay down, you stay silent, you stay small, and you think it's noble. It's not. It's pathetic. A coward watches his family suffer and says, "There's nothing I can do." A warrior watches his family suffer and says, "Let me burn so they can breathe." You're not weak because life hit you. You're weak because you chose not to hit back. Every time you cowered, a part of you died. Every time you avoided the fight, the world took something from you, and you let it. You let life choke you out and called it fate. You called it God's plan when it was your fear that wrote the script. Stop blaming destiny for the war you refuse to fight. There is no honor in silence when your soul is screaming. There's no pride in cowardice, dressed as patience. You waited so long to be ready that you missed the war entirely. And now, you're just another ghost in a crowd of men who never mattered. Nobody respects the coward. Respect is earned in the fire, in the noise, in the chaos. You think you'll gain respect by being quiet and polite? You gain respect when you stand up while bleeding, when you speak, even when your voice is shaking, when you move, even when your legs are broken. But you chose to sit still. You chose to fade. You let your dreams rot in a corner. Because the world scared you. The world scares everyone. Only the strong push through it. Only the ruthless become something. You can't be loved and respected if you don't even respect yourself. And you can't respect yourself if you keep running from the storm. Cowards run. Warriors walk into hell with a smile. Cowards look for help. Warriors become the help. You're not alone because people left you. You're alone because they saw what you were, a hollow shell with no fight left. You want loyalty? Be worth following. You want brotherhood? Earn their trust in fire. You want power? Then get up and take it. Nobody will hand it to you. Nobody's coming to push you forward. They're just waiting to see if you're worth following. So far, you've given them nothing. You gave them excuses. You gave them excuses. You gave them excuses. How many more before you finally get tired of hiding? How many nights will you cry in silence before you decide to roar? How many days will you waste in shadows before you choose to burn? You think pain is the enemy. Pain is the door. Pain is the key. Pain is the price of power. Nobody respects the coward because he's afraid of that price. He wants the rewards without the war. He wants the glory without the guts. He wants the applause but refuses to bleed. That's not a man. That's a joke. That's a shell. That's a shadow, and shadows don't lead. They follow, they fade, they die without making a sound. You weren't born to follow. You weren't born to obey fear. You were born to fight, to break, to rebuild, to rise again. So why are you still crawling when you could be charging? Why are you still apologizing for existing? Why are you still begging for permission to be great? Nobody respects the coward, and that includes you. You don't even respect yourself. Not when you look in the mirror, not when you whisper lies to avoid the fire. But here's the truth, the fire is coming. Whether you like it or not, you can run from it and die tired, or you can walk into it and be reborn. It's that simple, it's that brutal, it's that real. The question is, are you finally done being a coward? Because nobody respects the coward, but everybody fears the man who killed the coward inside him. Be that man. Be feared, be respected, be relentless, or stay nothing forever. You keep wondering why nobody listens when you speak, because you've spoken without fire for too long, because every word that comes out of your mouth sounds like it's begging for permission. People don't respect soft voices in a violent world. They respect roars that were forged through suffering. They respect men who don't flinch when chaos kicks down the door. But you've been flinching since day one. Every time life raised its voice, you sat down. Every time pain showed up, you looked for a way out. Every time the world demanded strength, you offered silence. And now you want respect. Now you want power. Now you want to be seen as something more than just background noise. It doesn't work like that. Respect is built with blood, not breath. It's built with action, not excuses. You can't hide from the fire and expect to carry its heat. You've been playing dead for so long you forgot what it feels like to fight. But somewhere inside you, the fire's still flickering, buried under the ashes of your own doubt, buried under the weight of every time you quit. It's not too late to dig it out, but you'd better do it soon, because every day you stay weak is a day. Another man becomes stronger. Every time you run is a signal to the world that you can be replaced, and trust me, you will be. Weakness has no place in the circle of wolves. It gets eaten, it gets ignored, it gets mocked. You can dress it up as humility, you can call it patience, you can pretend you're waiting for the right moment. But the world sees through all that. The world knows the truth. You're scared, and the world doesn't bow to fear. It consumes it. You can't keep hiding behind excuses and expect to rise. The men you envy, they earned their scars, they faced the fire. They bled for the life you're too afraid to build. They didn't wait, they didn't hesitate. They didn't ask if they were ready. They moved, they fought, they took what was theirs. And what did you do? You watched them climb while you sat. You watched them bleed while you complained. You watched them win while you waited. Nobody respects the man who only watches. Nobody honors the one who never steps into the arena. You think just existing is enough? You think just being a good person gets you somewhere? No one cares how nice you are if you're too weak to matter. Nice without strength is nothing but decoration. You want to be respected? Be dangerous first. Be ruthless first. Be unshakable first. Then add discipline. Then add control. But if you skip the fire, you'll never get the crown. You'll always be the coward who could have been something. You'll always be the almost story that no one finishes. Your kids won't be inspired. Your friends won't remember. Your enemies won't even know your name. Because you never became a threat. You never became anything. You let comfort cage you. You let fear tame you. You let your potential rot because the climb looked too steep. So you stayed low. You stayed safe. You stayed silent. But tell me, how's that working out for you? Do you feel fulfilled? Do you wake up proud of who you've become? Or do you avoid the mirror because you know you're living a lie? You can lie to everyone else, but you can't lie to yourself at night when everything goes quiet. When it's just you and the darkness, you hear that voice that screams, you could have been more. That voice that whispers, you were made for war. But you keep drowning it out with distractions, with excuses, with lies. You're not lost, you're running. You know exactly what you should be doing. You know exactly who you could become, but you keep choosing the easier path. and that path leads nowhere. Nobody respects the coward, because the coward is a traitor. He betrays his own soul. He betrays his own blood. He betrays his own purpose. You think you're avoiding pain, but you're just choosing a slower death. You think you're buying time, but you're selling your legacy for pennies. You think you're playing smart, but you're just playing dead. And dead men don't inspire. Dead men don't protect. Dead men don't win. So wake up, not tomorrow, not someday, now. This is your line in the sand. This is the point where you choose. Keep being a ghost, or start becoming a monster. Because nobody respects the coward, but everyone fears the man who finally had enough. The man who burns his excuses and builds with ashes. The man who doesn't need applause, because the fire in his chest is loud enough. Be that man, or get out of his way. There comes a time when you can't blame anyone anymore. Not your parents, not your past, not the world. The mirror doesn't lie, and right now it's screaming one thing. You let yourself become this. You let yourself stay down. You let yourself settle. You let yourself believe that safety was survival. But safety isn't survival. It's just a slow suicide disguised as peace. You want to know why you're angry? Because deep down you know you were meant for more. You were meant to conquer, not crawl. You were meant to roar, not whisper. But every time life demanded grit, you gave it fear. You let cowardice sit at the head of your table. And now you're starving. Starving for meaning, starving for power, starving for self-respect. And let me tell you something hard. Nobody's going to feed you. Not the world, not fate, not God. They already gave you a body, a mind, and breath in your lungs. That was the gift. What you do with it is on you, and so far you've wasted it. You've let the world mold you into a servant when you were built to lead. You've let your mind be ruled by fear when you were built to dominate. You keep waiting for a sign. Here it is. The pain you feel, that's the sign. The emptiness, that's the alarm. You're not broken. You're just quietly quitting, bit by bit, day by day. You're surrendering the war before the first bullet even flies. That's what cowards do. They die before the fight starts. They numb themselves with distractions. They drown in excuses. And then they blame the world when no one comes to save them. Nobody respects the coward, because the coward is a liar. He tells the world he's trying, but he's not. He tells himself he's waiting, but he's not. He's just hiding. Behind every excuse is a choice you refuse to make. Behind every regret is a moment you ran from. You could have spoken, but you stayed silent. You could have fought, but you froze. You could have climbed, but you sat. Don't you dare blame life for that. You had a choice, and you chose fear. You chose weakness. You chose to be average in a world that worships power. Power is the currency of this planet. Not whining, not complaining, not pleading. Power. And it's not given. It's taken. And you take it through suffering, through war, through relentless forward motion. Even when your bones ache, even when your mind screams, even when everyone turns their back, you keep going. You keep striking. You keep building. Because the world only bows to the man who refuses to break, not the one who cracks at the first sign of thunder. You're not broken because of life. You're broken because you believed the lie that life was supposed to be easy. It's not. It was never meant to be. It was meant to forge you, to burn away the weakness, to expose the fear, to crush the illusion, so you could rebuild as something unstoppable. But you keep resisting the fire, and that's why you stay cold. You stay weak. You stay invisible. Nobody respects the coward, because he never finishes anything. He starts with hope, but ends with excuses. He walks with pride, but crawls when it's time to deliver. He shouts when he's comfortable, but goes silent when he's tested. That's not a man. That's a shell. That's a mask. That's a ghost wearing skin. You want power? Then earn it. You want freedom? Then bleed for it. You want respect? Then become someone who can't be ignored. You can't beg your way to the throne. You can't plead your way to strength. You can't wish your way into greatness. You have to suffer. You have to fight. You have to tear away every weak layer you've been hiding behind. The lies, the excuses, the comfort. Burn it all and start walking through fire. You don't need more time. You don't need more motivation. You need war, internal war. You need to break that soft voice in your head that keeps saying, maybe later. You need to destroy that whisper that tells you you're not ready. You are ready. You just don't want it bad enough yet. You still care too much what people think. You still want to be liked more than you want to be respected. That's the root of cowardice, the need for approval. Burn it. Let them judge you. Let them doubt you. Let them leave. Good. Let them go. Because once you stop needing them, you become something they'll never forget. The world doesn't need another silent man. It needs a savage with purpose, a monster with discipline, a leader with fire in his eyes and wrath in his bones. But you can't be that until you bury the coward. Not hide him, not silence him, kill him, choke him out, rip his voice from your skull, and replace it with war cries. Every time you feel fear, step forward. Every time you doubt yourself, strike harder. Every time you want to run, plant your feet. This is how you build respect, not with pleas, not with hope, but with relentless, violent, purposeful action. You don't need to be perfect. You need to be relentless. You don't need to be feared. You need to be respected. And respect begins where cowardice ends. So choose, stay a ghost, or become a god. You keep asking for strength, like it's something that's handed out. Strength isn't given, it's forged, in fire, in failure, in the dark moments where no one claps and no one cares. That's where real men are made. Not on stages, not in comfort, not when it's easy, and definitely not when you're afraid to bleed. You want strength? Then take the hits, get dragged through the mud, get knocked down so hard you taste blood, and then stand the hell back up, again, and again, and again. Because that's what kills the coward inside you. Not words, not wishes. War, the internal kind. The battle between who you are and who you pretend to be. You keep pretending you're fine, that you're patient, that you're still planning. But deep down, you know you're just stalling. Because it's easier to pretend than to perform. It's easier to wait than to wage war. But waiting won't save you. Waiting won't make you stronger. Waiting won't make you respected. Only fire does that. Only pain. Only relentless progress. Cowards wait for the perfect day. Warriors work with the broken ones. Cowards cry about what they lost. Warriors use loss as fuel. Cowards run from pain. Warriors marry it. They wear pain like armor. They turn suffering into purpose. That's why they lead. That's why they're remembered. That's why they get respected without saying a word. But you still think respect comes from being nice, from being helpful, from being liked. You're not a puppy. You're a man. Start acting like one. Respect doesn't come from soft eyes and kind smiles. It comes from backbone. It comes from fire in your eyes and steel in your spine. You want to know what makes a man dangerous? It's not his fists. It's not his voice. It's that he doesn't flinch. That when the world pushes, he pushes back twice as hard. That when everything goes dark, he becomes the light. Cowards don't do that. They wait for permission. They beg for safety. They fold under pressure and blame the weight. You can't be respected if you're always folding. You can't be respected if you're always running. You can't be respected if you never chose to fight, because that's what it is, a choice, not a feeling. You'll never feel ready. You'll never feel brave. You just choose. In the face of fear, in the middle of the storm, with shaking hands and a beating heart, you choose to step forward, to take the hit, to become the man you were always supposed to be. And once you choose that, the coward dies. And that's when the world starts watching. Because people can sense it. They know when you've killed the fear in your eyes. They know when you've been through hell and didn't flinch. They know when you're not just speaking, you're leading. And that's when respect begins. Not when you ask for it, not when you demand it, but when you embody it. When you become a living example of what power looks like. When you walk into a room and everyone feels the fire you carry. You don't need to prove anything to anyone. You just need to stop running from yourself. You've spent your life avoiding your own greatness because it demands pain. You've spent your life bowing to the voice in your head that said, "Not yet." But now is the time to shut it down. Now is the time to burn that voice to the ground. Now is the time to step up, not for applause, not for attention, but because there's a version of you that's dying to be unleashed, a version that's ruthless, fearless, unbreakable, and every day you don't let him out, you betray him. You betray yourself. You betray the blood in your veins that was meant for war. Nobody respects the coward because the coward is a traitor. He kills his own fire before anyone else gets the chance. But you still have a spark left. So fan it, feed it, fuel it with pain, rejection, failure, doubt. Use it all. Because that's the path, that's the way forward, not around the pain, through it. You want to be respected. Then you've got one job. Earn it. Every single day. Earn it with blood. Earn it with action. Earn it with discipline. Because respect is built in the dark when no one's watching. It's built in the silence, in the suffering, in the reps no one sees. And one day they'll look at you and say, "I don't know what changed in him, but he's different now." Yeah, you killed the coward. And that's when you started living. You've been quiet for too long. Not the kind of quiet that brings peace. The kind that smothers potential. The kind that hides pain instead of healing it. You've been numb. Not because you don't feel, but because you feel too much and do too little. That's what cowards do. They feel everything and change nothing. They drown in thought, but starve in action. You say, you're thinking things through, but you've been thinking for years. When do you start doing? When do you take the first swing? When do you decide that this life will not be wasted on fear? Because that's what's happening. You're wasting it. Time doesn't care if you're nervous. It doesn't care if you're not ready. It moves without you. And the more it moves, the less of you remains. You think you have time to wait. You don't. One day you'll wake up with nothing left but regret and a spine that never stood up. You'll look back and see the war you could have fought but chose to avoid. And no one will care, because nobody respects the coward. You think they'll understand your pain? They won't. You think they'll sympathize with your excuses? They can't, because they've got their own battles. And the ones who win don't have time to console the ones who sat out. You chose to sit, you chose to watch, you chose the silence. Now own it. But if you're done, if you've had enough, then stand. Not later, now. No apologies, no announcements, just action. Start small. Start with the next breath, the next rep, the next step. But start. That's how the coward dies, with movement. Cowardice can't survive in the body of a man who refuses to stay still. Cowardice thrives on inaction. It needs your hesitation to stay alive. Starve it, deprive it of excuses, drown it in discipline. You've got anger in you, use it. You've got fire in you, feed it. You've got demons, face them. You think the strong don't feel fear. They do. They just don't obey it. They don't let it dictate their destiny. Fear can live in the room, but it doesn't get the throne. Only the warrior does, and that warrior is still in you. Buried under guilt, buried under shame, buried under years of silence and self-betrayal. But he's in there, and he's still breathing. You want respect? Then bring him back. You want power? Then stop apologizing for wanting more. You want to be free? Then destroy everything that keeps you caged. The laziness, the excuses, the need for approval. Rip it all out, burn it, and walk through the flames without flinching, because that's what real men do. They don't beg, they don't whimper, they don't hide. They face it, they take the weight. No one else wants. They build while others sleep. They rise when others break. That's where respect comes from becoming the one no one can replace. You can't fake that. You can't lie your way there. You either earn it with fire, or you don't get it at all. And right now, you haven't earned it, but you can. Not tomorrow, now. The clock is ticking, and every second you waste is a second. Another man is outworking you, outbuilding you, outbleeding you, and eventually he'll outlive you. So make a choice, because your time as a coward ends the moment you decide it does. Not when you feel like it. Not when you're ready, when you choose. You've been running your whole life. Aren't you tired? Aren't you sick of hiding your strength just to keep others comfortable? Aren't you done choking on your potential? Then say it, not with words, with movement, with fire, with relentless, unforgiving action. Say it by showing up every damn day. Say it by bleeding when no one's watching. Say it by becoming the one they fear losing, because that's who gets respected. Not the one who waits, the one who moves, not the one who hopes, the one who builds, not the one who talks, the one who finishes. Nobody respects the coward, so stop being one. You know what to do, now do it. The world doesn't need another excuse maker. It doesn't need another man explaining why he didn't try. It needs fire. It needs relentless. It needs those willing to bleed for a life worth living. You've been telling yourself you're just not there yet, but let's be real. You're just not willing to pay the price. Because the price is pain. The price is discipline. The price is isolation. And you'd rather be liked than be legendary. You'd rather stay comfortable than be remembered. You'd rather be safe than be feared. And that's why you're not respected. Because deep down, everyone can see it. You play small because you're scared. Big might break you, but you're already broken. Broken by fear. Broken by your own patterns. Broken by a lifetime of holding back. You don't need another strategy. You don't need another plan. You need guts. You need rage with direction. You need to look in the mirror and say, no more. No more excuses. No more delays. No more apologies for wanting to dominate. Because that's what you were built for. Not to follow. Not to blend in. To stand. To rise. To burn so bright. The world has no choice but to notice. But that light doesn't come from comfort. It comes from fire. You've got a war to fight. And that war starts inside you. Between the man you are and the monster you could become. Cowards lose that war before it begins. They negotiate with fear. They compromise with pain. They shake hands with mediocrity and call it balance. But you're not meant for balance. You're meant for war. And until you embrace that, you will always be weak. You will always be ignored. You will always be afraid. Nobody respects the coward. Not because he's soft, but because he's capable and still chooses small. You're capable. You know it. That's why you're angry all the time. Because you see what you could be. You feel what you should have become. But you did nothing with it. And that pain isn't going anywhere until you do. You want peace? Fight for it. You want freedom? Bleed for it. You want to look in the mirror and feel pride again? Earn it. Through repetition, through sacrifice, through ruthless daily discipline. Not one day, every day, until the old you starves, until the coward dies, until the fire in you burns, hotter than every fear you've ever felt. That's how you get respected. Not by asking, not by hoping, but by becoming. Becoming the one they look to when it all falls apart. Becoming the one who carries the weight that breaks others. Becoming the one who never flinched, never folded, never fled. You've got that in you. But you've got to dig. Deeper than comfort, deeper than convenience. Down into that raw, unfiltered core, where everything screams and nothing bends. That's where the monster lives. That's where the warrior waits. He's not sleeping. He's watching, waiting for you to finally get out of his way. Because he's tired of sitting behind excuses. Tired of watching you play victim. Tired of waiting for permission to unleash. Let him out. Let him lead. Let him destroy every weak part of you that's kept you in chains. You weren't born to be tame. You were born to be respected, to be feared, to be remembered. And that only happens when you do what cowards won't. You take the hit and keep swinging. You walk alone when others hide. You choose suffering over safety. You choose battle over begging. You choose growth over comfort. And you never look back. Because the old you, the one who waited, whined, and withered, he's dead. You buried him in the fire. Now what's left is steel. Now what's left is flame. Now what's left is a man. No one can stop. That's who gets respected. That's who builds legacies. That's who becomes a name worth remembering. So stand up, wipe the blood off your face, and go again. Harder, faster, louder. Let the world feel you. Let your enemies fear you. Let every step you take shake the ground you walk on. Because now you're not just alive. You're unstoppable. This is the final warning. The last time you'll hear it before you're lost for good. Because once you go numb enough, even fire can't wake you. You've spent years delaying, denying, dismissing the call. But there comes a time when the mirror stops reflecting and starts judging. And it's judging you right now. You can see the truth, that you could have been a monster, that you could have ruled the room instead of blending in, that you could have made them remember your name instead of forgetting your face. But you didn't. You stayed in the background. You let fear take the lead, and you just watched. Every time you felt that heat rise in your chest, you shut it down. Every time life dared you to fight, you stepped back. You called it wisdom. You called it patience. But deep down, you knew what it was: cowardice. And that's the thing. Cowardice doesn't scream. It whispers. It hides behind reason, behind excuses, behind fake smiles and dead eyes. But the body knows. The mind knows. The soul screams for war, and you keep feeding it. Silence. No more. No more chains. No more excuses. No more shadows. This is where the weakness ends. This is where the fire takes over. This is where you stop asking and start taking. Respect isn't given to those who wait. It's given to those who act, those who move when it hurts, those who speak when it's risky, those who lead even when they're terrified. You're not too late. You're just one decision away from becoming everything you were supposed to be. Not in a month, not in a year. Now. You don't need their permission. You don't need their praise. You don't need their love. You need their fear. And that comes from power, from presence, from the relentless, violent, undeniable truth that you will no longer be ignored. Let them doubt you. Let them talk. Let them laugh. Because soon, they'll be quiet. They'll be watching. They'll be wondering how the hell you became what you did. And you'll know the answer. You killed the coward. You starved him. You burned him. And you replaced him with fire, with focus, with discipline so sharp it could cut through stone, with hunger so savage it could eat mountains, with silence so loud it made the whole world listen. That's the shift. That's the awakening. And it happens the moment you decide. No more. No more waiting. No more wishing. No more fear. Only fire. Only growth. Only blood and reps and sweat and grit. Only the hard path. Only the warrior's path. And when you take it, everything changes. Not immediately, but permanently. Because the world can't deny a man who can't be moved. It can't ignore a man who refuses to stay down. It can't silence a man who speaks with action. Let this be your rebirth. Let this be the moment you become the one they said you'd never be. Let this be the era where you stop following and start forging. Nobody respects the coward, but everyone remembers the man who rose from ashes with nothing but fire in his chest. Be that man. Be unstoppable. Be relentless. Be feared. Be respected. Not tomorrow. Now. Right now. Because this is the final line. The death of who you were and the birth of who you were always meant to be.